Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Got Betrayed and Joined the White Dragon Empress Part 2. Before we start, please go support AbrahamJosueSalasRoa for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. This is the translated version I made. There will be some wrong he or she calling here because it's translated, so let me clear this. Issei is a male in this story. Chapter 4 Infinity. The somewhat dark room was acutely silent. And Issei still cannot get over his amazement at having in front of him the being that is known as the strongest in all of existence, being surpassed only by Great Red. The Ouroboros dragon, Ophis, the god dragon. Valery, seeing that Issei couldn't get over his impression of having Ophis in front of him, managed to look for one of the chairs in the room and put one in front of Issei, who was able to react to that and, a little doubtful, sat down in the chair, and Valery sat next to Issei to listen to the conversation. What should I do? Issei asked a little nervously, whispering to Valery. She is interested in you. So answer her if she asks you a question. Valery also told him in a whisper. And don't worry about creating a fuss. Ophis is a quiet person who doesn't want to fight anyone except Great Red. Plus he's been curious about you for a while. Tell me something, Valery. Issei said still in a whisper. No one else besides you, your team, and Ophis knows I'm here, right? That's how it is. Nobody knows. Currently everyone takes you for missing or kidnapped, but we'll talk later. Said Valery, cutting off the topic. Issei sighed upon hearing that and then looked at Ophis, who waited for them to start chatting patiently. What business do you have with me? Issei asked nervously, wanting to avoid breaking into a cold sweat. Valery, seeing his nervousness, sighed, seeing that Issei is somewhat afraid of Ophis because of what she is capable of. She doesn't blame him. Many would be the same. It took Ophis a few seconds until he finally decided to speak. Tell me something, Drake, do you want to stop being a celestial dragon? Ophis's question took both Issei and Valery out of the picture, the brunette being the one who didn't understand. What did he say? The human being who is your host has been growing in a different sense until now. I think this is very strange. Very different from the previous celestial dragons. Valery is the same. Strange. Very strange. Ophis's words made Issei and Valery look at each other. In the fight against Cao, Drake's armor changed into different shapes during that battle and became more powerful. Drake has had different evolutions. This is the first time this has happened. Ophis said without changing her expression. That's why I want to ask you, Drake, what are you going to be? Issei at that moment wasn't sure if he should respond or not, but instantly. I don't know, Ophis, I don't know. The boosted gear materialized in the young man's hand and the dragon's voice was heard. I don't know what this boy wants to become. I don't know, but it's true that he is having interesting growth. Drake's appearance made Issei sigh in relief. Better let Drake speak since he along with Albion are the wisest in the place. The two celestial dragons are different, I as the infinite and Great Red as the dream, in nothingness. Why do you think about becoming the king of domination, Drake? Asked Ophis. It has to be the result of seeking strength. Because I was eliminated, I couldn't be strong without increasing the power of domination, Drake said. I don't understand domination. Those of the Cow's Brigade seek domination. I don't understand. Great Red is not domination. I don't represent domination either. There is no way that a being that has been very strong from the beginning can understand the reasons for domination. You, who were born from nothing and infinity, and Great Red who was born from illusions and dreams are from different dimensions. Ophis, you appeared in this world when you came out of the dimensional gap. What have you achieved in this world? And why do you think about returning home? I also want to ask you, Drake, why are you trying to become a different being? Are you going to discard domination? What will happen after that? Ophis answers questioning him. Drake and Ophis constantly ask each other questions. Neither responding to the other. Not because they didn't want to, but because they don't know the answer to those questions. That's why they look for them. Issei only listened to the conversation between both dragons a little confused since, as always, conversations between dragons seem very complicated for him, as was the case with Albion, Vritra, Yulong and Midgardsormr. Well, the usual Drake and Tannen had a human demeanor in them and you could say it was easy for them to understand. Valery, for his part, listened to the conversation between both dragons with interest since something similar happened when Albion spoke with Ophis and the aforementioned asked him questions similar to the ones he is asking Drake right now. Drake, tell me something. Will you become Chichirute? Can you beat a celestial dragon by touching your breasts? Drake, will you become a dragon that represents breasts? Drake upon hearing this reacted in a way that he needed to inhale some airog. Even this guy ends up telling me that. Ooh-oh-ha-ha. My consciousness has faded. What have I done to deserve this? Issei, seeing how his partner reacted, felt guilty. It will take time for the name of the Sekirute to regain its former glory and for many to stop asking those types of stupid questions that. Now that he admits it, he sees that they are embarrassing, now he regrets it. The way it was before. Now, Drake. stop crying. I said I would do everything possible to regain the great honor of your name, so don't cry over something like that. Issei said, comforting his dragon companion who seemed to stop crying from him. Yes. I am sorry. And thanks again, partner. Thank Drake, a little calmer now. I want to look, Drake. I want to see your user even more. I want to see how far he can go. Ophis said and then saw Valery. Albion, the same goes for you. Your host, Valery, also has a unique growth and more so for being a descendant of Lucifer. In your case, what will you become? Perhaps like Drake who plans to discard domination, you plan to discard supremacy. At Ophis's words, the wings of divine dividing appeared on Valery's back and they shone. I don't know how to answer you either, Ophis. But I am sure of one thing. Albion said sternly Valery will undoubtedly discard the supremacy and will gain something else. I'll just say that. In that case, I want to see them, both. Said Ophis looking at Issei and Valery. I want to see how far they can go, especially you, Sekiruite. He said, looking at Issei. Issei didn't know what to respond to Ophis's words. But Valery took the floor and spoke to him. Ophis is curious about both you and me. Therefore, I think it is good that he sees what we are capable of. Valery put his hand on Issei's shoulder and with his frown he whispered. Furthermore, I fear that something bad will happen to Ophis. There is no doubt that this is what Cao wants. Issei was shocked by Valery's words and couldn't digest it. What threat does Cao represent against Ophis? Sekiruite, tell me something. Ophis's words made Issei see her again. What made you join the Cow's Brigade? What do you want to achieve? Ophis's expressionless question made Issei lower his head with a somewhat depressed expression. Are you seeking domination again or something else? Issei didn't know what to answer to Ophis, not because she couldn't or wouldn't, but because it's still a complicated topic for him. He barely had the courage to tell the truth about everything to Valery, but even if he tells it to Ophis, he doubts that she will understand. It is already clear to him that she does not understand many things. So she probably doesn't understand the meaning of how the people you were sworn to protect all the time only used you for their benefit or didn't think of him properly because of his trauma. Valery, seeing Issei like that, decided to speak to end the topic. I'm sorry, Ophis. But the reason why Issei is with us is very sensitive for him. We will talk about it later. Ophis only blinked once even without expression and nodded, indicating that he agrees. At Kuo Academy. The school atmosphere was practically the same as every day, and less than a week ago the school festival was organized where many clubs held their events for the students, although there were also few clubs that did not participate in the festival or they did nothing. Where among those was the occult club that cancelled the activity they were going to do for the festival, with the excuse that they were short of material and other things, where in the end, they did nothing and were not there on the day of the festival either. Now leaving that in the background, in the 2P room. The students were paying attention to the sensei who was giving the last of that class, although certain girls were not paying attention. Those were the trio of the church, which for some time now weeks that many did not see them in good spirits and seemed sad for some reason that everyone does not know. Then, the sensei, seeing that his clock showed the corresponding time that he had already finished, put away his things and told his students about a report for the next class in order to leave the classroom. The students, seeing that they will be free for a few minutes before the next teacher arrives, began to chat among themselves about trivial things. Hey Asia. The one who said that was Ika Kiryu who approached the church trio who were not in the mood and seemed to have dark circles under their eyes. What's going on with you three lately? It seems like they didn't sleep at all. Hey? Don't worry. Kiryu-san. Just a bad dream or we stayed up late. Asia said, wanting to seem normal, but it was impossible. It was quite obvious his spiritless tone and serious. By the way, what has happened to Haidu lately? Is he still sick or what? Ika asked, changing the subject, since news leaked weeks ago that Issei would not attend the academy for a while due to illness or an accident. A good excuse imposed by the student council on behalf of Sona so that the teachers do not worry and that they give the activities to her so that she can send them to Issei. Although the news at first relieved many students, even more to the girls who were fed up with the biggest pervert. Issei's two friends. Mitsuda and Motohama along with Ika were worried about Issei, who once asked to go see him, but Asia gave them the excuse that Issei was not resting at home, but in a special hospital imposed by the Gremory family. Since, according to the excuse, the supposed illness is very serious and will take time, in addition to not approaching it without caution. Hey? Oh. Why yes. For now they cannot tell us when he will possibly recover, but everything is fine for now. Asia said with a false smile, although his nervous and sad tone was noticeable. Zenobia didn't even bother to say anything or talk to anyone else besides Asia and Irina, she just had a sad expression and hidden anger. Anger towards herself, since she hurt the man she likes, and now she was nervous that whoever kidnapped him is doing something horrible to her. Moments like these she wants to take out Durandal and destroy several trees or rocks to calm herself down. Irina, for her part, seemed to have her eyes a little red. She felt guilty for everything with Issei. She also hated herself for not supporting him, and perhaps, this way all of this would have been avoided. She even felt that she didn't deserve to be an angel nor Michael's maid, hurt, and did not support his childhood friend and love interest. Asia was almost the same as Irina. It saddens her more to know that all the time, Issei was having an internal conflict that prevented him from getting close to them. It was all her fault, that fall that traumatized him, but it was also her fault she didn't support Issei when he needed it. Ika just continued silently watching the church trio who were sad. Was Issei's current condition really so serious for them to be like this? Or is there something else they weren't telling you? In the first-year classroom, Kaneko, Ravel and Gasper were just as depressed as the church trio, or perhaps worse in their own way. Kaneko has been more expressionless than usual, she hardly talks to anyone, and he hasn't had sweets in a while. Issei's situation had her in that state, she hated herself for thinking it was her fault, and it was true. Gasper has been with a somewhat gloomy face since the day his favorite senpai disappeared. She also hated herself for not supporting him, and for blaming him that day for Ria's. Because of this new attitude, he spends more time outside of his box and only goes in when he wants to sleep. Ravel, since the day Issei disappeared and discovering that he had an argument with the others that day, she became a sea of tears and felt guilty for thinking that everything started because of her and her mother. In third year, Rias and Akeno were very expressionless towards everyone, including Sona and Tsubaki, who looked at them both sadly. They were also upset about Issei's disappearance and what could be happening to him, but they know how to hide it. Akeno was somewhat expressionless, she barely expressed herself when the teacher called her attention or when with a group of fallen that Azazel entrusted to her, she was looking for Issei. Rias had dark circles in her eyes that indicated that she had not slept well lately, she hated herself. So that all this happened. She, who appreciates many of her servants as family and who is willing to listen to her problems, hated herself more for knowing that her former pawn and love was suffering only internally, and she did not value it. Sona looked at Rias and Akeno in the distance from her seat and sighed tiredly, then looked out the living room window, at heaven. I hope you are well, Haidu-kun. Since everyone here misses you even if you don't believe it. In the afternoon of that same day, Issei was training with Arthur, who was teaching the brunette everything necessary for a sword fight and having good reflexes. Saying that the descendant of King Arthur didn't care that Issei went against him with his armor implied that Arthur was someone dangerous in his own way, and Issei saw that firsthand. Issei had noticed that in terms of speed, Arthur did not compare to him or Kiba, but his cunning and enthusiasm that is typical of a human helped him predict the movements of his opponents. Even Issei hates to admit that Arthur is a better swordsman than Kiba and Zenobia, his technique and balance are perfect, with no wasted moves. Furthermore, with his holy sword Caliburn, the strongest of all the holy swords, they made him an opponent to be feared not only for the great power of the sword, but for his ability to open gaps in space to attack his enemies in blind spots. From a distance, Ophis watched the two train together with Kuroka, Lefei and Biku, who watched a practice match with admiration. They knew that Arthur was strong in his own way and was the one who gave the most fight to Valery, while Fenrir only slept at the same time. Side of Lefei. The clash between Issei's Dragon Slayer sword Ascalon and Arthur's Caliburn as the clock was heard chiming, they knew their practice time was up. They both took their distance from each other as they tried to catch their breath. You have good moves, Haidu-kun. Arthur said, adjusting his glasses with a satisfied smile. You have improved a lot in the use of the sword, although you still act to be an expert like me. Your common fighting style without a weapon I admit is dangerous. It's the same as Valery. Thanks, Arthur-san. Issei said, laughing nervously while he takes off his helmet and wipes off the sweat. Issei-sama, Ani-sama, here. Said Lefei, giving them both bottles of water and small towels to dry their sweat. Thank you, Lefei. Arthur appreciated the gesture and took the water calmly. Aka, I didn't expect something like this. Biku twirled his staff as he approached with a mischievous and funny laugh. By the way, Sekiryuite. I had heard that you had some forms that make your armor change and increase your powers in terms of strength, resistance, speed and firepower individually. Why haven't you used them? The Yaokai's question made everyone go to see the brunette as if telling him to explain. Issei scratched his cheek a little nervously, but decided to speak. The thing is that I no longer have access to those forms. Since I stopped being a demon, I have lost those qualities. In fact, now I think that I became weaker than strong. His response baffled everyone for a moment who was not expecting that, but, indeed, partner. There's something you're wrong about. Everyone heard Drake's voice coming from the gauntlet and paid attention to it, even Ophis didn't want to miss anything. Well, it's true, you no longer have access to those forms, that doesn't mean you're gone. Made weak. On the contrary, you are on the right track to reach your full potential and without disadvantages. What do you mean by that, Drake? Issei asked, confused and questioning him. I mean that the potential of the illegal move Triania forms is still present within you in terms of its qualities. Drake's words disconcerted everyone, especially Issei, who before he said anything, Drake continued in other words, it is just as you say, you cannot access those forms, but the potential you obtained in Kyoto is still present within you. Even if you lost the illegal move Triania, the normal armor alone is now stronger than before. Maybe you didn't notice it, but while fighting against Arthur, you managed to outspeed him by a lot and almost caught him off guard. Practically, you can use the power of those forms without the armor changing, but you will have to adapt over time, and if you can master those qualities, that will be a step towards achieving power beyond the Juggernaut drive. After saying that, the place became silent, no one said anything from what was heard. Especially Issei, who still did not believe that he retained the qualities of the illegal move Triania and could use it without changing armor. Although he had to agree with Drake, even he couldn't believe her great speed during the duel. In fact, he hadn't even paid attention to that, he thought it was just the adrenaline. It sounds interesting, so we can continue practicing so you get used to it. Arthur said, adjusting his glasses again with a satisfied laugh. Akakaka, then I think it's my turn to have a practice match against the Sekiryuite. I've been craving it for a long time. Biku said excitedly and twirling his staff. Eyes, I have news. When they hear that voice, everyone turns around and sees that it was Valery who arrived at the place. It seems that we can take what just happened as a mission. Hey? What is this mission about, Valery Naya? Kuroka asked with a tilt of her head. They rarely went out to entertain themselves by stealing missions from other Chaos Brigade members or foiling his plans. I have found reports where they say that near a hidden village of current society in the human world, an attack by strange creatures has been sighted that attack anyone who crosses them and seems to be heading towards said hidden village. Valery said seriously and with arms crossed. Furthermore, according to the reports I found, these are the same type of strange creatures that attacked members of the Chaos Brigade less than 2 months ago, and that other members captured at least one of those creatures to study them. The most curious thing is that these creatures are not any type of legendary beast belonging to any mythology, there has never been anything like that. Valery's words made everyone surprised except for Ophis, who remained expressionless and just listened to everything with interest. What is the description of what those creatures look like, Valery? Arthur asked with his typical serious expression. They describe them as mechanical beings that are a combination of a machine and organic parts of some creature. Their entire bodies appear to resemble humanoid insects with 4 limbs, while they have a hard exoskeleton surface that emits a bright glow and are completely colored in a silver tone. They seem to have no nose or mouth, they seem to have 5 pale eyes and a large prominent head. Valery finished giving the explanation seriously. Both Issei and the others found it difficult to believe that description. Strange creatures that do not belong to any mythology and are a combination of machine and organic parts. Something like that was hard to believe. Still. How strong are those things? Issei asked, a little nervous about facing something that does not exist in any mythology. According to reports and what could be verified, they are as strong as high-class demons or even a little higher. Valery's response surprised everyone, even Ophis was drawn to beings like that, not because their power, but because they don't belong to any mythology. I plan to go and put an end to those things before they kill innocent people. So. Does anyone want to come? Valery's question made everyone look at each other for a moment and. I'll go, I can't ignore something like this. Issei said, taking a step forward, and he looked determined. Akakaka, those things sound like interesting opponents. By the way, we warm up our muscles. Biku said with enthusiasm and without fear. I'll go too, I'm curious to see those things. Arthur said calmly. I'll go since Ani-sama is going, plus I don't want to be alone again. Said Lefei, raising her hand as if asking for permission to go. Naya, I have no complaints, I agree. Kuroka said calmly and without concern. I'll go too. Ophis' words wanting to go with them took everyone out of the picture, even Valery, who knew that Ophis never even goes out to support the other groups. What is the reason you want to go, Ophis? Valery asked confused. I want to see what Drake and Albion are capable of. Let's see if this makes them improve. Ophis said without expression, and everyone looked at each other, so that later Valery sighed. Okay, let's just not draw attention. Time after, the location Valery's team had arrived at was an immense forest located on the outskirts of Japan, practically in the mountains and unexplored areas. Quickly, we must flee, shouted a woman who was carrying her daughter in her arms while she was fleeing from something in the distance. Even with a little light in the place, because that area was surrounded by dense fog, you could see how 5 eyes or similar were shining in the distance. Even upon arrival at the village, everyone could see, as if from the forest and the fog, some strange creatures about 3 meters high came out. They looked like machines with organic limbs. A few hooded men who had wands stood in front of the creatures and activated their magic circles, thus beginning a barrage of attacks against those things. while the non-fighting civilians hurried to the shelter area and perhaps prepared for an evacuation. Although it would be a somewhat busy evacuation and more so due to the number of civilians in this town, something small was big. The strange creatures from their eyes shot red rays that seemed lethal, and the magicians of the place covered themselves with a defensive circle together. But said circle was destroyed after receiving 5 shots, and that baffled everyone and scared at the same time. However, what no one expected was that suddenly, the closest of those creatures would be cut in half from where the stomach is supposedly. And immediately, one by one of those creatures would be bombarded by magical attacks out of nowhere, causing them to explode or take damage. And instantly, 2 lights that were red and white descended to the place in front of the magicians, facing those things. The magicians could see that they were 2 suits of armor that were identical in appearance, but one was red and the other white with green gems. And blue respectively. They were Issei and Valery. "You. Let the civilians out of here while we take care of these things." Issei said that without turning to whoever was speaking to them, because he was totally focused on the beings in front of him. "Don't make us repeat what he said." Valery said seriously without turning around. Understood. Withdraw. The one who seemed to be the leader of the magicians responded out of inertia. Something told him that he should not provoke those 2. Rushing the evacuation of the place while the civilians saw those who were helping them one last time. As those creatures thought about approaching, more visitors passed them by and stood next to Issei and Valery. They were the other members of the team ready for combat, and behind them was Ophis eating a sweet and seeing what was happening. "To happen." "Orders, Valery?" asked Arthur. "Simple, put an end to all those things," said Valery. "The Kaka, let's do it," Bhikkhu said gracefully and rotates his staff. And without waiting a second, everyone went on the attack against those creatures that were a maximum of 20, a somewhat worrying number if you consider that these beings have the power of the high class. But for Valery's team, this was more of a relaxing and somewhat entertaining. The creatures fired multiple red rays from their mouths and eyes that they knew were lethal, but they could handle them. Arthur's fast movement was enough for these attacks not to touch him, and after disappearing from the side of those things, he finished off the small group that touched him with 2 clean cuts from left to right as he appears behind them. Bhikkhu with acrobatics included as he rotated his staff like a fan, he hit those things mercilessly and even managed to decapitate one of those things. The smile on his face showed that he was having fun. Divide, 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 divide. Valery divided the power of an attack together with those things, and with what was absorbed, he created several magic circles from which he fired several magical and elemental blasts, eliminating some of those things. Issei at high speed as he took out Ascalon managed to cut the limbs of some of those things, and then, with a powerful downward slash, cut one in half, and then boost, 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 boost. Dragon shot. Issei fired a huge burst of draconic power that eradicated some of those things or hurt some. Yufufufu, Naya. Lefei, Naya, shall we try that trick? Kuroka said funny. I replied Lefei with enthusiasm. Both girls in sync created a large magic circle of red and gray. Then, Iningusu, an oriental fire dragon with stones on its body, shot out from the magic circle. Said dragon, as if it had a life of its own, began to destroy those creatures in front of it. Issei had to admit that Valery's companions were ridiculously strong in their own way. Now remember why I consider them one of the most dangerous groups within the Cow's Brigade. Anyway, I'm already tired of these things being insistent. I visualize one that was bigger than the others, easily 5 meters, and its appearance would make one think it was a chimera, only with machines and organic limbs on its body. I sense that it was the leader of these things. Okay, that will be your goal. Issei forcefully grabbed one of the limbs of those dead things and with a great jump began to hit the few that remained with said limbs. The others, seeing him fight like that, were left speechless. What mosquito bit him? With a limb in his hand, Issei sets it on fire and forcefully throws it at the largest, making him retreat. He smiled seeing that he made him angry. He had to thank Valery for teaching him some fire magic, the best tuning of him, thanks to his draconic genes given by Dreg. It was then that Issei noticed how 2 of those things that were going against him suddenly froze into ice cubes to his surprise. Don't keep the fun to yourself, Issei. Valery said with a smile, indicating that she is responsible for freezing them. And then with bursts of magic destroy those things turned into ice cubes. At least these things are a little entertaining, and I always wanted to do that. Sometimes I think you're a maniac, you know. Issei said, giving his opinion with a drop on the back of his neck. One thing is already clear to him, on the battlefield, Valery will be the battle maniac that he knew a long time ago. That said, both celestial dragons stood next to each other and then saw how the leader of those things seemed to roar, well, the same creatures from before reproduced from his body, coming out of his body, as if they were pimples or warts. But. That's totally disgusting, I've never seen anything like it. Valery showed his disgust at that creature as he raised his hand to create a magic circle of cold air. So I see that. The atmosphere was already freezing by the mere contact of the frozen air with the environment. And before the large creature could continue creating its children, it was frozen from the waist down. Furious, he opened his mouth and flashed his eyes to launch red rays that went towards both heavenly dragons. Issei saw that, but he didn't even flinch, he knew what should happen next. For me? You wouldn't have bothered. Valery smiled mockingly and then extended his right hand and divide, 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 divide. The creature's attack shrank by a little more than half, and then Issei delivers an aura charge blow and dissipates what remains of the attack. Alright, now, let's kill him. Are you following me, Valery? Let's do it. Valery nodded and inside his mask he blushed for fighting alongside Issei. With that, they both disappeared from the creature's sight to reappear behind it. Now with their calmer auras. Because the creature began to fall into pieces. Just like their children were exterminated by the others. They had all been destroyed after almost 2 minutes. Seeing the job well done, Issei and Valery bumped fists in victory. You have improved too much, I admitted. Said Valery, removing the helmet from him. And you are still the same with that magical talent of yours. Seriously, I'm envious of that. Issei also said, removing his helmet and showing a sarcastic laugh. The Coco, it seems that the fun is over, how boring. Biku was disappointed that the fun had not lasted a little longer, but it was better that way, they shouldn't drag this out. I didn't even sweat a drop. Naya. Kuroka sounded calm and made the gesture of tearing the air like cats do. Well, it's time to go. We're done here. Arthur put his sword away from him as he approaches the others. I think the same, we should not draw attention. LaFay affirmed what her brother said. With that, everyone set off to leave the place before the locals come to ask them questions or thank them. And it's not that they didn't accept the thanks because it was the right thing to do, but that they were all wanted by the Alliance, and they can't risk those magicians recognizing them, even though they already saw them anyway. Oh well. Issei, Valery and Ophis' team left the place, getting lost in the fog that hid that village. And after almost half an hour, they were already out of the mountains, walking through the thick of the forest and arrived at an open area. Well, here we can leave without attracting attention. LaFay. Said Valery, looking at the magician, who nodded and began to create a magic circle of transportation. However, Ophis would look in a certain direction, practically at the sky that was cloudy, and everyone noticed it. Is something wrong, Ophis? Asked Issei, approaching the dragon goddess, who did not turn to see him. Something is approaching the place. Strong, very strong. And there is no doubt. A dragon. Ophis's words surprised everyone. What, a dragon? And why does he come to where he is? Partner, I think it's best that we get out of here quickly. Drake exclaimed, interrupting Issei's words and drawing everyone's attention, except Ophis. Hey Drake, don't scare me. What's happening? There is no time to explain, partner. I was an idiot for not realizing it sooner, and to think that he would come towards us right now. If you value your life, go as far away as possible. For the Welsh dragon to say that, and with a tone like fear. It must mean he's serious, but it's too late. It's here. Ophis's words made everyone look in her direction, and then instantly, something fell from the sky at high speed, impacting the place where everyone was, and a large screen of smoke rose. Everyone except Ophis felt a chill, as they could sense a dangerous presence. And they saw that in the smoke screen there was a silhouette inside. Everyone sharpened their gaze and became on guard, thinking that she is an enemy. By the time the smoke cleared, everyone saw that it was a beautiful woman with long straight blue hair. She was wearing a navy blue skirt, her eyes were dark blue. And she had a body to envy. The woman set her gaze on Issei, but more on his left arm. Who are you? Issei asked, putting himself on her guard while he pointed at her with the arm that had the boosted gear. Do you dare point that finger at me, vile dragon? Asked the woman with a grim expression. How long, Drake? I didn't think she would see you again. Although I can't say I'm glad to see you. Even after all this time, I can't seem to get over the bile that threatens to appear every time I hear your voice. You are certainly not happy to see me. As if she were. I waited so long for this moment. I have tried to track you for years, but every time I felt even a slight trace of your aura, you always disappeared and later appeared somewhere else. But now, I have already mastered a method to suppress my presence without you noticing it. How wonderful it is to live for so much. So, is that because I failed to notice it until you came here? Drake sounded nervous and even cursed himself for not noticing it. Hey Drake. You seem to know this woman. Could you tell me who she is? Issei asked, confused, and a drop of sweat fell to the ground. Tiamat. Ophis said without changing his expression, and does not flinch before the dragon, and the others gasped upon hearing that name. She is one of the 5 dragon kings and the strongest among them. The Chaos Karma Dragon. Tiamat. Drake's response made everyone except Ophis tremble with fear, since they had a legendary dragon in front of them. One of the few still alive. Chapter 5 Chaos Karma. Nobody said anything, the atmosphere was a little or too tense. It wasn't until a few minutes ago, when they had finished with those strange creatures that threatened a hidden town, and just when they were going to retreat. Out of nowhere, the strongest among the Dragon Kings, the Chaos Karma Dragon, appears in front of them. Tiamat. I can't believe it. She's Tiamat. Le Fay was shaking and sweating profusely due to the appearance of the Dragoness. This was bad, very bad. Whoa, and to think that we would have the honor of meeting her in person. Bhikkhu, although he seemed interested in starting a fight, deep down he trembled with fear and excitement. This doesn't seem advisable at all. Arthur adjusted his glasses as he broke into a cold sweat, trying to hide his slight nervousness. Geez. I didn't expect her to show up. Issei trembled slightly for a moment, but stood his ground. You shouldn't try to be brave, Sekirute, I can smell your fear. But at the same time your fighting instinct rises. Tiamat spoke seriously and a little mockingly when she discovered the small fear of him. Well. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous about this. Issei said that with a sarcastic and nervous laugh. Even so, resisting is useless. Although. Tiamat would stare at the others until she put her gaze on Valery, but even more on the blue wings on his back. Albion, huh. How curious, the two celestial dragons together in the same place, and they are not fighting to the death. Tiamat sounded slightly surprised that both dragons were not fighting each other. It's been a long time, Tiamat. Albion's voice echoed from the wings of the divine dividing, although his tone was a little scared at seeing the Dragoness. And answering your question, it could be said that Drag and I with our carriers reached some kind of agreement. I don't care what you say, Albion. But if you try to intervene in this, I advise you to prepare to go to another possessor, because I will incinerate your bearer if they intervene. Tiamat spoke with indifference and seriousness, sign I was serious. DCH. Shit, now I regret not being at my best. Valery spoke seriously and was in a cold sweat. As much as he likes the idea of a challenge, in his current state where he no longer even has the Juggernaut drive because he is in the process of getting his new power, he is limited at the moment. Still, don't worry Sekirute. Your death will be quick and painless. Tiamat looked from him to Issei, who instinctively went on guard. Hey wait. At least tell me one thing. Why do you hate Drag so much? What has he done to you? Issei asked confused as he trembled slightly. You haven't told him, okay. I guess I can delay your death for a few more minutes. Tiamat under the aura and pressure of him as he finished saying that. See mate, I don't think this is a good idea. Drag sounded a little scared about where this was going. Oh shut up, I want to know what's going on here. Anyway, so you know more easily. Before Drag was sealed, he asked me to borrow some legendary items he had. He told me that it was to strengthen himself so that he could defeat Albion. But these two idiots ended up angering the three factions with their fight, resulting in them being sealed in the sacred gears, and the items that Drag asked me for were stolen. Lost by being taken by human thieves and scattered throughout the world or corroded by time. I'm sorry Drag felt guilty about it. I don't care, just give them back to me. Tiamat said, frowning. I'm already in such a state so I can't return them even if I want to Drag replied, trying to defend himself for his actions. That's no excuse, it's your responsibility. Tiamat said, crossing her arms. I guess she's right. Issei had to agree with Tiamat. Even you two partner. Drag felt slightly betrayed by his partner not supporting him in this. I agree with what your possessor said, Drag. It is your responsibility. Albion supports what Issei said. You shut up, don't get involved in this, Albion. Drag shouted at his rival indifferently, he had enough of this. I'm sorry Drag. But that's your problem. It's a pity brat, since that responsibility also falls on you. Tiamat spoke, placing her hands on her hips. Drag has escaped many times, but now you have no escape. Sorry mate, but fighting is inevitable. I already know that. Issei said, putting himself on guard and raising the arm that carries the boosted gear that shines slightly. Wait Issei, I'll fight too. Valery, somewhat upset, gets a little closer to Issei. If you fight alone, there's no way you'll beat him. You could die. Even I won't be able to win alone in my current state. I know Valery, but. Issei lowered his guard and stood in front of Valery, taking her by the shoulders and looking straight into her eyes. Tiamat is only looking for me, and she wouldn't forgive me if something happened to you. Those words made Valery blush slightly. You have helped me a lot, and thanks to you I was able to overcome that trauma that tormented me. But now, I will be in charge of protecting you. So, I ask you, do not intervene. This is my fight. Issei spoke seriously at the last. Valery, even with a slight blush on her face, could see that Issei's serious eyes told him that she was serious. Besides, those were the eyes of a warrior, one who would fight even if his own life was in danger. Be okay. But promise me, you'll win. Valery reassigned himself and accepted what Issei said reluctantly and with a little doubt. I'll do that. Issei gave her a sweet smile that made Valery's heart beat harder for a moment. Issei separated from Valery and stood in front of Tiamat again, both of them being at a distance of 10 meters at most. Well, Tiamat. I'm ready to fight whenever you want. Well, you were already late. Tiamat smiled defiantly and cracked her fists, preparing to fight. "Oh Ophis-sama, can't you do something?" Lefay spoke somewhat pleadingly to the dragon goddess to see if she could avoid the fight, since the little magician did not want Issei to perhaps die in the process of this fight. "Leave them, I want to see what they are capable of." Ophis said without changing his expression and being expectant of what would happen while he eats a chocolate. But what if he kills Issei-sama? Lefay sounded scared and did everything possible to avoid crying. "He won't die. He won't lose. I'm sure." Ophis continued without changing her expression, and the others had no choice but to just watch. "Hiroka, Lefay. Raise a barrier over us so that no one knows what is happening here." Valery spoke seriously, and those mentioned did not know what to say. "We can't let them discover us, much less the Alliance." Valery-san. "Do it, please," said Valery, interrupting Lefay's words. Hiroka and Lefay, without a choice, did as Valery requested, thus raising a barrier over all of them and a part of the forest, so that no one would know what was happening. Issei and Tiamat, even though they were at a certain distance from each other, both looked at each other with defiance. And the tension they created left a great pressure in the place. Issei took a deep breath and put himself on guard as he raised his arm with the boosted gear. "Are you ready for the beating you're going to receive, boy?" Issei did not answer Tiamat's question, but his look was enough as an answer. "You don't talk, huh? Better this way." Welsh dragon balance breaker flames came out of the gauntlet and surrounded Issei, thus forming the dragon scale mail armor. Issei put himself on guard as did Tiamat, who was unfazed by the imposing red armor. And within seconds, both went against the other and both raised their fists to attack. These went to both of their faces and they felt the impact of these on their faces. The helmet of Issei's armor cracked and some blood came out, but the same thing happened with Tiamat, who gritted her teeth from that damned blow. First time. They do damage to her that makes her complain. Both dragons retreated a little and then attacked again, this time with strong and somewhat faster blows. While Tiamat attacked at full power without thinking much about dodging, Issei waited more patiently for the blows to block them and then attack when he saw a small opening. Issei dodged a blow and attacked with his fist, but Tiamat blocked it and launched a kick at the young man, who ducked to avoid the impact. He watched as the sheer force of it shook the ground and raised it a little scary. Issei raised his fist to deliver a powerful blow charged with aura to Tiamat, who dodged the blow by millimeters. The wind that this kind was enough to see that, in fact, that blow was serious. Tiamat, despite her seriousness and her desire of killing Issei, he smiled defiantly when he saw that and stomped on the floor and then delivered a powerful blow to Issei in the abdomen. Issei felt the blood go to his mouth from that blow, but he stayed in his place by stepping firmly, and then he threw a strong blow at Tiamat that hit her in the face and sent her a few meters away. Tiamat, angry, spits out a little blood. And he attacks Issei at high speed, and without him realizing it, he gives him a strong blow that cracks his armor and sends him crashing into some rubble. Issei stands up while rubbing himself a little. That blow was ridiculously strong. Issei would come out of his confusion when he saw that Tiamat launched herself at him. Issei jumps and dodges Tiamat's blow that destroyed a rock into 1,000 pieces and that made him break out in a cold sweat. Issei stepped on the ground and then put himself on guard. He looked at the surroundings for a second. Nothing of use to her, so she opted to fire 3 dragon shots at Tiamat, who ran towards them and deflected them with her fists. I guessed. Issei put himself on guard and waited for Tiamat to be within reach of him, but not before. Boost 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 boost. Issei, with the accumulated power, quickly charged his fist in a red aura that was accompanied by a yellow one. When both dragons were close to each other, they would launch their powerful blows that hit both of their faces. One of them drew more blood from the dragon of the one side of his face, and the other broke the helmet of the armor and drew blood from the brunette. A simple clash shook the place. Both took their fists out of each other's faces and took their distance, and then looked at each other without saying much. Good shot, there is no doubt that they are full of spirit. Although. Tiamat wiped some of the blood on his face and caressed the hit area. That feeling that gave me chills when I received that blow. Was it? It's Dragon Slayer. Issei showed her fist that was wrapped in sacred Dragon Slayer aura. Thanks to the sword inside my glove, I can charge my fists with the aura that is the weakness of the dragons. So you have a Dragon Slayer with you, huh? Tiamat smiled defiantly and seriously and indifferently. That's admirable, but even with that, don't think you'll beat me. We won't know if we don't try. Although I admit that you are one of the few who have damaged my armor, and more so with bare hands. Issei wiped the blood from his face. You remind me of someone who could do the same thing with his bare hands. It's a shame I didn't have the chance to fight him due to the circumstances that occurred. I'm not interested in your circumstances or what you experienced. I only came to finish you off so I can be calm later. Partner, you should be careful. She's still dangerous. So she takes precautions. I know. Issei took into account the warning from her partner and put himself on guard. Are you going to keep talking or fight? Sorry. He was talking to a certain red dragon, but anyway. Shall we stop the warm-up? Sounds good. I already told me that you weren't serious, but I agree. Tiamat began to expel the aura from him that even raised the rocks near her a little, and she became on guard. Were they just testing each other? That's how it seems, Naya, that's how it seems. Kuroka noticed how the others, with the exception of Ophis, looked speechlessly at what happened. Without a doubt this will be interesting, if with just a warm-up they showed such ability. I already want to see what it will be like now that they are going seriously. No way to say it, Kuroka. Arthur looked seriously at the fight. He noticed that Biku and Valery were too. It's a little scary, seeing that Haidu-kun is so strong, despite having no talent makes it seem like. Talent doesn't matter if you don't train it. Wow, those two are monsters. Biku laughed sarcastically and sweating something cold. I'm surprised that Issei has improved too much. Months ago he didn't have that strength, not even when we faced each other. That shows that the boy has great potential. Valery Albion responded with admiration to what he saw. The brunette improved a lot since that day. Here I come, brat. Tiamat attacked Issei at high speed and launched a powerful blow charged with blue aura. Issei reacted by inertia and protected himself by crossing his arms in X. Even so, he felt the force of the blow, his armor in that area cracked and he was pushed away. A few meters from the dragon. Even with that, Issei launched 3 blasts against Tiamat, who went against him to attack mercilessly, deflecting the shots without problem, although he became irritated doing so, since he felt a horrible sensation, Dragon Slayer in the shots. Issei knew that he couldn't let her hit him more than once in a row. So he firmly stepped on the ground and then, with an impulse along with his thrusters, attacked Tiamat with his fist raised. Boost. Issei charged with power and launched his blow against Tiamat's, thus both impacted instantly, and that caused the earth to crack. Both dragons exerted force for several seconds and then let the impact move them a little away from each other, but that did not last long. They immediately went against each other and slammed their hands together to exert force in a desperate attempt to show their power to the other. The result was both of them sinking into the ground a little due to the force used as their auras collided. None gave in, none showed any sign of surrender. At that, Issei put less force to Tiamat's surprise that he saw how the Sekirute propelled his body backwards and gracefully gave an upward kick to the Dragoness in the jaw. Tiamat felt the impact and also the blood in his mouth. Damned brat, this won't stay like this. The dragon gave a strong kick to Issei's abdomen, who flew to the side and then held back his advance with his hands. Glove claws. Issei spit out blood and felt the burning in his ribs, but there was no time to rest. Issei looked up and could see Tiamat coming towards him. He took a breath and also went to attack. He dodged a blow from the dragon that grazed him a little, seeing how the earth was left was enough to know that he should not receive it. Issei threw a blow at Tiamat's face. She was angry and counterattacked with a blow to the abdomen that made him agonize a little, thus damaging and penetrating the armor, almost until it touched the body. Issei vomited blood, but gritted his teeth and took the arm with which Tiamat hit him to his surprise, thus charging her other fist in aura, and gave her a strong blow to her abdomen that made her agonize. That sensation was horrible. But it didn't stop there. Issei gave Tiamat a headbutt that made her retreat a little, and then gave her a strong blow that made her crash into a large rock. Issei grabbed his abdomen that was more than affected, and pieces of the armor fell to the ground, and breathing was difficult. Tiamat came out of that rock where she crashed, and she looked more than furious. This brat has hurt her, and he cornered her, wiped a line of blood from his mouth, and only sharpened his gaze. Okay. Now if she's angry. I think that's already obvious. Drake responded to Issei's sarcasm. Issei stood firm and on guard. She knew she only made Tiamat angrier. She decided to channel the Dragon Slayer aura into her fists. She must finish this as quickly as possible. Issei launched 3 dragon shots with the Dragon Slayer aura. Tiamat quickly managed to deflect the attacks, but felt her hands go numb. Damn it, she didn't feel that feeling even from afar. However, Tiamat was surprised when Issei was a few centimeters close to her and then. Issei, without wasting time, charged her aura into her hand, and said aura took the form of claws, which surprised everyone without exception. That was new. Dragon claws. Tiamat did not have time to react as the Sekirute nailed his energy claws into her right shoulder at the complaint of the dragon, who did her best not to even scream, in addition to feeling the blood coming out of the wound. She made a blow, but Issei dodged it only by moving his head and then gave a strong blow to Tiamat that took her a few meters away. The Dragon Queen seemed more than furious and indignant since a brat was giving her a beating, so to speak. Okay, enough of the games. You can't let yourself get lost here. Their possessor is strong Drake. But it is not enough. But what? Issei was surprised by the sudden sinister tone that Tiamat took, but what came next surprised him even more. It would be seen that Tiamat began to change shape. Her skin turned blue, she grew horns on her head. Her human skin was replaced by dragon scales, on her back she would have 2 dragon wings and a tail on the lower area. The being that appeared in front of Issei was a dragon humanoid in every sense of the word. Even Valery's team did not know what to say about what they saw, although Ophis only looked closely at what he saw. Could happen now. But what did he do? Comrade, that is her dragon humanoid form. In that form, Tiamat is just as strong as in her dragon form. She must know that if she fights in her dragon form, it would be an advantage for you for being small. It is said that Tiamat only used that form sometimes. Damn. Anyway. There is no choice but to continue. Issei put himself on guard and charged her with his Dragon Slayer aura. She must take advantage of this to generate more damage to the dragon, even if she goes all out now. Now get ready, Securite. Tiamat on impulse went towards Issei, who used his speed to go towards her too. She knew she was taking a risk. If she were to receive some blows from Tiamat, now that she was serious, she would possibly be more than outside. Valery and Albion watched the battle without saying much, seeing how Issei dodged Tiamat's powerful aura charge blows, and as if from a somewhat strong blow from her, Issei's armor broke. Valery trembled slightly from rage and fear. Fear of Issei dying at the hands of Tiamat and anger at not being able to do anything. A part of him was telling him to intervene and stop this fight one way or another, not caring, even if Issei gets angry about this. But he couldn't, he didn't want to break his promise. Seeing how Issei managed to take Tiamat off guard for a moment and attacked with his energy claws, managing to hit her body and make Tiamat agonize and get angry, I worried a little. More to Valery. Have a little faith in the boy, Valery. Albion spoke seriously, making Valery clear his side of the fight. For a moment he promised you that he would win and that he would not die. Albion. Valery spoke nervously, the first time he felt like this. I kinda doubt he can. Do not hesitate. Also, I understand you. So, if necessary, he intervenes. But until then, this is his fight, not ours. Valery reluctantly nodded to what Albion said and put his eyes back on the fight. He wiped away the tear that he wanted to come out and put on a firm expression. The battle had now intensified, Tiamat with all her power unleashed, although a little weakened by what happened in the first part of the fight, had gained a clear advantage over Issei who, despite being able to go at her speed, could only attack when he finds an opening. Issei barely dodged a blow from Tiamat that destroyed the ground, taking advantage of that small moment to attack with an aura charge blow that hit Tiamat squarely in the body and moved her away a few meters while leaving ditches in the ground. Tiamat's look of rage was enough for Issei to understand that it only made her angry. Greg, what options do I have left? Not many, partners. You only have to continue attacking Tiamat with the Dragon Slayer aura to hurt her, although I recommend that you transfer the boosts to your fist, along with the aura of the sword. When attacking, Issei nodded to the advice of his partner, while breaking out in a cold sweat. I'm already sick of you. Tiamat increased her draconic aura and attacked Issei, ready to give him a strong blow charged with aura. Out of adrenaline, Issei managed to move to the side, dodging Tiamat's blow. The impact passed him by, but the damage it generated behind him was enormous. It seemed like an earthquake had happened. Shit. It's over. Tiamat without wasting time launched her other blow against Issei, who tried to dodge it, but seeing how Tiamat retracted her blow, only to then launch another one with an even greater aura than before, made him understand that the previous it was a feint. Issei couldn't react in time and received Tiamat's blow to the chest of his armor, and the impact sounded at the same time as Issei's chest of armor, and his helmet shattered with a large amount of blood coming out of the wound. The brunette fell to the ground with that. Apparently defeated. Issei, Sama, Valery and Lefei watched in horror as the blood came out of Issei's body. Damn, we must get him out of there quickly. Kuroka for the first time screamed, scared and desperate at what she saw. She had rarely seen enemies leave Issei on his knees or on the ground, but this time was different. Wait, look at that. Everyone stopped at what Ophis said and saw that, although he was on the ground, Issei could move slightly and was trying to find a way to get up. How crazy, how is it possible that he is still conscious after that? Bhikkhu spoke with admiration at this event. Even so, another blow and it's over. Arthur spoke seriously and sharpening his gaze. If he continues like this, he will become unconscious or die. Issei, not anymore. Not yet. I can still go on. Issei shouted as he moved his arm as best he could to indicate that he should not intervene. I'm sorry, this is the end, mate. It was fun to have shared great battles with you. And no. As long as he is still alive, I will continue fighting. This is nothing. Issei lifted the upper part of his body as best he could, but it hurt just doing so, and the blood it came out little by little. Hahaha. Surrender, Securite, everything is over. You put up a very good fight, I'm not going to deny it. It's been a while since I released all my power. Tiamat walked a little until she was 10 steps away from Issei. Besides, it's nothing against you, you just had the bad luck to be born with that stupid shitty dragon. Shit. Geez, why don't you reconsider? I will not reconsider anything. Feel honored Sekiryuite, you have made me use more power than any opponent normally forces me to. But it's all over for you. Tiamat said with a neutral expression. And no. And not yet. With a cry of pain and effort, the Sekiryuite stood up again to the astonishment of everyone and the Dragoness, who could not believe that even in that state can stand up. Issei looked weak, but his eyes showed that he had not given up. As Chaos Karma Dragon Tiamat. I wouldn't want to fight to the death with you, I know you have hatred towards Drake for what he did. But at least we should try to reach an agreement. Issei said, taking the wound on his back. I'm not going to lose, I can't lose. If to make sure you can calm down is to confront you and win, then I'm going to win and show you that my determination is not weak, I'll show you what I'm capable of. The young man's eyes shone with a reddish gleam deep inside them. DCH. Useless but strong words Sekiryuite, but it's useless if you can't show them, I'll finish you off once and for all. Damn. I must. Issei let out a heavy gasp. Do something. Drake, can you give me more power, no matter what, and maybe help me with my injury? I guess partner. There are still few parts of your body that are human, including the lungs and… Okay, take them. No better, take it all if necessary. If it's to win. So be it. Issei shouted that while there was a strong glow in his eyes and an intense red aura followed him. Began to surround. Ahahahaha. Seriously, partner. With you I can never get bored. Drake laughed with amusement. Okay, let's do it. We promise to show what the current Sekiryuite of this era is capable of. Are you ready partner? No. Hi to Issei. You already know what my answer is. Issei laughed sarcastically. How much are you babbling, brat? Tiamat asked, already tired of this, the brat was only delaying his death. I'm not gonna lose, I promised myself to never lose to anyone. Issei stood firm, as he says that and his red aura increases. I will become stronger, to protect the ones I care about, and I will no longer let my past traumas and mistakes govern who I am. Memories of everything he has experienced passed through Issei's head. How he died, how he was reincarnated as a demon, the fight against Raynor, Phoenix, Kakabiel, Valery, Loki and Cao Cao. All this while Issei's aura increased and his eyes turned green with a rectilinear appearance, and the red aura was added to it by a green aura that caught everyone's attention, even Ophis. The aura and red-green glow that enveloped him partially closed the wound on his chest. Issei complained for a moment, but then he felt an intense heat on him, one that began to travel through the armor and make it glow. It's like that time, partner. It's not the corrupted energy of the Juggernaut drive. It's like my power when I had a body. Drake sounded nostalgic for some reason when he fought with Albion just to see who is stronger. The power that the biblical God seal is within our reach. Come on Issei, our true power. Let's use it with everything. Desire, determination, divineness, dragon, disaster, destruction, domination, destination. A sound that came out of the boosted gear, those voices. The past Sekiryuites. The light that surrounded the Sekiryuite became more intense as he looked at Tiamat, who did not know what to say to what he saw, that power. Tiamat. Issei raised his fist, showing the gem of the glove where the red Sekiryuite mark appeared. Time for the final round. Issei raised his fist to the sky and… Now, Welsh Dragon over Booster. A pillar of red-green energy was unleashed in the place. This pillar would rise to the sky and generate a powerful shock wave that shook the place. But what the hell? Valery and the others were covered by the great shock wave that was created, although Ophis did not even flinch before said wave and watched with care and interest what happened next. The red-green energy pillar would disappear and Issei would appear with his armor again, only this one had a slight tint that was not normal red, but crimson, and the gems on the armor glowed deep and dense green. The aura what he emanated demonstrated tranquility, but at the same time imposingness. Tiamat couldn't believe what she saw. This couldn't be real, it was impossible for that boy to still have so much power. Why you? Come on. Issei raised his fist and threw a punch into the air in the direction of Tiamat, who dodged the intense wave of wind that passed and destroyed what was in her path. Tiamat, despite the great impression of what happened, becomes serious and increases his aura, thus launching himself against the Sekiryuite at great speed and launched his blow. However, to everyone's surprise and even more so to Tiamat herself, Issei stopped the dragon's blow with one hand. How did he become so strong? The brunette raised his fist and carried it in a red-yellow aura and slammed his fist into Tiamat's stomach, who felt the force of it and spit out a mouthful of blood as she was moved a few meters away. You owed me. Issei was on guard. I don't need to run anymore, I can face you now. Don't become haughty just because your power increased a little. Tiamat said angrily, although he trembled slightly in the presence of that power. We finished this. Comrade, I admit that this large increase has made the armor stronger than before. I think that the power of the Triania forms that you lost has awakened and gives a good influence. Issei nodded to what Drake said and was calmer still. Don't get overconfident, this may be temporary, but maybe you can do it again use in the future. But this ready, both dragons launched themselves against each other and with their fists they collided again. This time the force of this clash was such that the entire place shook and some trees fell. Both dragons saw each other's eyes and one thing happened to both of them. To hell with the strategy. A blow to the face, another to the abdomen, another to the face, kicks, the chest, one and another blow where both of them focused on one thing, attacking. Do not dodge, whoever attacks the most and damages the most will win. Valery and the others noticed how each blow from each dragon made the other stagger, but none of them fell, how the impacts created slight tremors, and the place was unstable due to the impact of each one. The forest where they were was even shaking, and trees were collapsing due to the fight. The fight went on and on, there was no respite. Both dragons had suffered severe damage but were still battling each other. Issei's armor was even still there, defending its owner from enemy blows. No one fell, they were determined to continue. Issei then disappeared from Tiamat's sight after giving a blow and reappeared behind her with his energy claws drawn and stuck his claws in her right shoulder. Tiamat containing the scream she wanted to give attacked him, but Issei in a fraction of a second transferred power to block the blow and kick Tiamat's knee, who felt her legs weaken. But the Dragon Queen, with some pain, stood firm and attacked again, but the Securite resisted the blow. Although the armor was seriously damaged and he raised his fist to hit Tiamat in the face, one of the horns on his head broke from the force of the blow. Partner, you have to end this once and for all otherwise, you will lose balance breaker at this rate. I know and I will win. Issei dodges Tiamat's blow as best she can and summons Ascalon, then cuts Tiamat on her abdomen and she spits out more of her blood. Issei then gives her a strong kick that crashes her into a large rock. Tiamat was shocked, but what she saw surprised her. Boost, 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 boost. Transfer. Issei transferred power to Ascalon, and the sword emanated a large amount of dangerous aura and then went against Tiamat with the sword in hand. Tiamat couldn't do anything, she just stood paralyzed. Thinking that she lost, that it was its end. Issei continued his advance against the dragon, and everything was in slow motion. Valery and the others couldn't believe what was happening and what Issei was going to do. Did he? Tiamat closed her eyes waiting for her end. However, the attack that would finish her never came. Tiamat opens her eyes and sees that Issei was in front of her with Ascalon in hand and the tip of the sword was nearby. Of his neck. And Ost. Feeling you would not be right, so be thankful that it will only be this. Issei without warning gave Tiamat a strong blow in the stomach, making her agonize with pain and kneel on the ground clutching the injured area. Seeing her like this, Issei knew that he had already won, he turned to leave, turning his back on Tiamat. She was furious, but at the same time impressed, she had never seen a warrior who would put her in check. And a blush appeared on his face when he saw the boy's seriousness. Issei, at a slow but calm pace and without pain, went with the others while his armor disappeared and sighed with fatigue and relief. He had a little blood on his face and small bruises. And before he noticed him, two people came up to him and hugged him. Issei saw that it was Valery and Lefay. Valery, Lefay. What the? Idiot. For how you scare me to death. Valery interrupted the words and seemed to do everything possible to avoid crying. Issei Sama, she was very scared. She was afraid that you would die. Lefay for her part was just crying, showing her concern. I promised them that I would win and survive. And I plan to keep that, always. Issei instinctively responded to the hug of both girls and felt very happy, this made him nostalgic. My friend, that was a terrifying and incredible display of power. Biku spoke with admiration and a little nervous to see the chestnut's tremendous power. I must admit that this result is unexpected. Still, congratulations on your victory, Haidu-kun. Arthur smiled gratefully and adjusted his glasses. Arya, that was an incredible power Naya. Kuroka for some reason looked longingly at the brunette for the great demonstration of power. Issei sighed. Well, I think I can. Securite. Upon hearing that voice, everyone turned around and saw that Tiamat staggered to her feet and returned to her human form while he grabbed the hit Arya. Aren't you giving up? Issei, a little agitated, stands in front of Valery and Lefay, ready to protect them, but quite the opposite. You win, I accept my defeat. Tiamat's words that he was surrendering surprised everyone except Ophis who was staring at what was happening. I admit that I didn't expect that, you are the first dragon that manages to defeat me. Tiamat, now a little better, gets a little closer to Issei and he saw her nervous. Tell me, wielder of Drag. What was your name? Issei. Hi to Issei. I see, so Issei, huh? Tiamat smiled as he said that. How about this, Issei? I forget my revenge against Drag if you allow me to accompany you. Eh? Both Issei and the others were left speechless by what Tiamat said. Why do you want to accompany me? Of course, if you don't mind answering. Issei asked, who managed to get over the impression of him. You've caught my attention, so I want to see even more of what you're capable of. I promise I won't cause problems. Tiamat said, bringing her face a little closer to Issei's, who got a little nervous. Well, Valery and Lefay, they didn't see the closeness of those two well. You're inside. Everyone went to see Ophis, who approached Tiamat, and they were surprised by what he said. Thanks to you, Tiamat, I was able to see something of what he was looking for. So I hope a lot from you. Oh, Ophis. Tiamat was more than surprised to have the dragon goddess in front of her. This is unexpected. If it weren't for the fact that I recognized your presence, which is like the void that represents infinity, I would have mistaken you for someone else. Furthermore, the last time I saw you, you had the appearance of an old man. I have no reasons for the change of appearances. Ophis said without changing her expression. Still, are you willing to join us just to be close to Issei? Obviously. Tiamat spoke without any doubt. Then it's okay. Hey Ophis, but this is very sudden. Valery spoke out of inertia, something told him that Tiamat will be a bit problematic. It doesn't matter. She no longer has the desire to kill Drake's wielder, so that's enough. Ophis spoke as if that were normal. Not to interrupt Naya. But I think we should leave as soon as possible. Kuroka said, drawing everyone's attention. The barrier we built in this place collapsed when both used all their power, and that was felt even outside. So I have no doubt that the Alliance is coming here. Valery, seeing how things were and that they had no other options, reluctantly makes a decision. Kuroka, Lefay, prepare the transport circle, we're leaving. And Tiamat. Valery went to see the aforementioned woman, who he saw with indifference. We'll talk at the base, there's a lot you need to know. Anyway. Tiamat shrugged her shoulders, as if downplaying it. That said, the transportation circle would be ready in seconds, and everyone stood on it so they could go to their base. Although before they teleported, Tiamat took Issei by one of his arms and he didn't know what to say, and Valery jealously did the same. And with that, everyone left the place. Within minutes, in the place where the fight between dragons broke out, a green magic circle appeared, and after a great glow, a group of fallen angels appeared in the place and began to inspect the place. And when the fallen divided up to cover ground, two people appeared among that group. But what the hell happened here? The one who asked that while he saw the destruction in the place was Akeno, who couldn't believe what he saw. From how this place looks, there was an intense fight in this place. The other person who spoke was Azazel, who was looking at the place in detail. The aura coming from this place was enormous, possibly at the Mao level. But why, and who was it? The answer is more than obvious. Azazel said, interrupting Akeno, and analyzed the destroyed places. The auras in this place were dragon auras, which means that some dragons fought. But what kind of dragons would have that power? Asked Akeno, confused. There were only a few with that level, and those are the Dragon Kings. Azazel said, leaving Akeno speechless. Still, one of the two dragon auras was known. But he was sure it was Issei's. Issei-kun was here, Akeno asked hopefully. But if that is the case, why and who do I fight? I don't know, for now we can only analyze the area. Azazel looked up and looked at his subordinates. Search the entire area, even outside the location. Don't leave stones unturned. Understood. The fallen angels responded to their governor's order and began searching the place. Akeno, for her part, approached the part where there was a huge crater of at least 10 diameters and knelt near it. Issei-kun. Please. Forgive me. Akeno spoke with a broken voice and crying for having, according to her, arrived late to perhaps find him. The epic battle between two legendary dragons had ended with an unexpected result, but one that could perhaps be beneficial. Chapter 6 Improve and Ascend for the Future. So. That's the current situation of the Alliance, huh? At his own Chaos Brigade headquarters, Cao has received the report from one of his subordinates about the current situation. The information that the Securite, Issei, disappeared overnight and that the Alliance is desperately searching for him was more than satisfactory to many in the Chaos Brigade. They even thought that members of the Chaos Brigade were those responsible for Issei's disappearance, but when Cao wanted to find out that, all the members to date of the different groups have stated that they had nothing to do with it. Cao was always the most analytical of his entire organization and was always capable of finding the answers to any unknown, but this time was different. Finding the answer to the whereabouts or what happened to Issei was something he couldn't discover if he didn't have a little clue. Still, he can't let that distract him from his goal. Maybe it's beneficial for the Securite to be out of the way. Thank you for your report, you may leave. The young subordinate bowed and left the place, leaving only Cao, who was looking at the view from where he was. The night on this occasion was very pure, no stars, no moon, nothing. Just a vast darkness, and with luck you can notice the night clouds. Cao. When the human hears his name, he turns around and sees that it was Georg who came along with Siegfried. I think you are already aware of the current situation, right? That's how it is. "And what do you think about all this, Cao Cao?" Siegfried asked. "Better take advantage of the situation. With the Securite out of the way, we will be able to achieve our objective." Cao Cao continued staring at the night sky that even flashed lightning for a moment. "And tell me, what has become of Valery's team? They continue acting on their own, as always." Georg responded, adjusting his glasses while he begins to read a book. "I've heard that he has been paying frequent visits to Ophis, as if to give her company and someone to talk to." "I see. Well, it doesn't matter." Cao Cao shrugged his shoulders, however. "Any new news about them just in case? We obtained reports from some subordinates that Valery has a new member in his team." Siegfried responded to Cao Cao's question, who seemed slightly surprised by that detail. "However, no one knows who he is, what his name is or what he looks like. What do you think, leader?" Well, if we talk about Valery's team, then there is no doubt that he must be someone strong and capable." Cao Cao responded calmly. "Valery, like me, is also looking for allies for his team, but it's a pity that she doesn't have what it takes to attract the attention of others and make them join her cause like I do. But if on this occasion, at least one person joined them, we can only assume that it must be perhaps a talented demon or fallen angel, or even a human with a special sacred gear. A Longinus perhaps. Who knows? Even so, what do you think of this, Cao Cao? Do you think she and her people will get involved in our business, or even the alliance?" Georg asked sternly. "We should not worry about the alliance. They are more focused on finding their missing Securite, who barely pay attention to the attacks made by the other groups of Cao's brigade." Cao Cao sharpened his gaze a little, and one of his eyes took on a reptilian appearance for a moment. "Anyway, this is something we were going to do without the alliance finding out, since it is not an attack against them, but against Ophis." Cao Cao's words left a sharp silence in the place. "Although I admit that I would have liked a rematch against the Securite, he still owes me for what did he do to me." Cao Cao caressed the place where he had lost his previous eye, and this new one was its replacement. "Ooh, that's all." Issei lay down on the bed in her room and sighed tiredly from such a tremendous day. It wasn't until a few hours ago that they arrived from the mission they had, along with their other new addition, Tiamat, who joined the team, and that puzzled them all. Anyway, when they arrived, what Issei did was take a long walk and relaxing bath to remove the dirt and relax, since the pain he received in his fight against Tiamat is still a little present. Issei sighed. "Hey Drake, are you awake?" "Of course, partner, what's going on?" Drake asked, apparently looking tired. Issei felt a little guilty for snapping him out of his quasi-sleep, but this was important. "What happened in the fight against Tiamat? What was that power?" Issei asked as the memory of that occasion came to his mind. "I wouldn't know how to explain it, partner. But I'm sure of one thing." Issei raised an eyebrow at Drake's words. "That must be like a sign. A sign that tells us that we are close to achieving our full potential. That power should have perhaps been a sample of what you will have when you obtain the power beyond the Juggernaut drive." "I see. In that case, I'll talk to Valery one of these days," Issei said and then looked at the ceiling. "I remember that he had told me that he discovered a method to remove the curse of the Juggernaut drive and that he could help me with that. I guess that's a good idea, Issei. Anyway." Drake yawns. "I'm going to sleep, partner. Today was a day of a lot of action and emotions." Zzz. The snoring of the dragon was heard as he finally succumbed to sleep. Issei sighed. "Sleepy dragon, you only think about sleeping when you do nothing. Anyway. Issei, a little confused, listened and saw that the door to his room was being opened. Issei didn't have time to think who he was, because when the door opened, he revealed himself to Kuroka. Issei was a little taken aback to see the Nekashu in his room, but what took his full attention was the fact that Kuroka was dressed only in a white robe that clung to her very good figure, and Issei was not he could help but blush when he saw her like that. Again, even in his current state, feminine beauty will never be foreign to him. Good night, Issei Naya." Kuroka greeted with your typical cat gesture and Issei blushed a little more when she saw him make that gesture. And he got nervous when he saw that Kuroka began to walk sensually to her bed. What brings you here, Kuroka?" Issei asked, wanting to control her blush and wanting to look away from Kuroka, which was impossible. You're still a little hurt after your fight with Tiamat, right Naya?" "Hey? Why yes. Why the question?" Issei asked a little more controlled, but he got nervous again when he saw that Kuroka sat on his bed. "Simple, because I have decided to come to cure you Naya." "See heal me?" Issei asked, puzzled by what Kuroka said. "That's how it is. I know a little bit of healing magic, and if I combine it with Senjutsu, the effect will be stronger, and I can heal you in a single night." Kuroka licked her lips erotically, and Issei only felt a shiver. "You don't mind if I cure you, right?" Well. Issei turned his head and then took a deep breath and controlled his blush. "Since you're taking the trouble to help me, I'll accept." Just that. Perfect Naya." Kuroka with a smile and without warning threw Issei on the bed and stood on top of him and then began to hug him and his breasts collided with Issei's chest. Hey Kuroka. Don't catch me that off guard. Issei was doing his best to avoid even spilling a disgrace from his nose and making a perverted face since he promised himself not to show himself like that again for the time being. Yufufufu. If you say so Issei Naya. So I'll start the treatment, but first. Kuroka being on top of Issei quickly begins to take off his shirt to his confusion. Hey. What do you want to achieve by taking off my shirt? For the treatment to be faster, our bodies must come into better contact. So just enjoy Naya. Kuroka, already managing to take off Issei's shirt, leans back on him while hugging him and then, a blue aura began to surround them both. This is. Issei said feeling nostalgic and more so because the one around them was relaxing and he felt the pain ease. No. I'm even applying Senjutsu to help you with your vitality. Issei was surprised by what Kuroka said and went to see the Nekomata who had a slightly sad expression. I found out from Valery that when you entered Juggernaut Drive, you lost many of your years as a demon, causing you to be unable to live past 100 years. And apparently, your condition remains the same even if you stop being a demon. Issei was still speechless at what Kuroka said, but he felt calm and at peace this time, although seeing how Kuroka healed him reminded him of his sections with Kaneko. He admits that it was nice to hug little Nekomata, but as soon as he remembered certain good times with Kaneko, the memory of what happened that night came to his mind reminding him of what they did to her. Although Issei before just remembering that he felt great regret and even wanted to cry. On this occasion he felt them to a very minor extent, indicating that it hardly affects him. Tell me something, Issei Naya. Issei went to see Kuroka who had a slightly sad expression, which surprised him. Is what Valery told us when she brought you true? That Shirin and the others used you and hurt you? Issei was surprised at Kuroka's question. From what he knows, Valery had to tell both Kuroka and Lefei about his situation so that the three of them could help him get out of his depression. Although, for days he had been rambling too much about the subject of the girls who hurt him, about whether they really loved him or just used him like he thought before. Wow, on that occasion he had strange conclusions just because he was blinded by frustration and sadness that didn't let him think clearly. But after so much thinking, and even more so when Valery managed to cheer him up that day, he finally got his answer to that question. That was eating away at him. If I'm honest, I think that's not the case. What do you mean Naya? Asked Kuroka confused as she did not understand what Issei said. Well, so you can understand what I mean. I need you to answer me something, Kuroka. And what would it be? Kuroka tilted his head in confusion. How much do you know about what Valery told you and the reason for my depression? Issei's question caught Kuroka a little off guard, who began to think about it. And after almost a minute, he decided to speak. I only know what Valery told me the day he brought you in and the conclusions he drew when he found you in that state. Later when he told me that he managed to make you recover to a certain extent, I decided not to ask him what he did since it made me I'm glad for the progress you made. Kuroka gave his points of what he knows. Hearing Kuroka's words, Issei thought about it for a moment and then, he got the answer from him. Valery did not tell either Kuroka or Lefei about the Rainer matter. Maybe she thought it wouldn't be good to talk about it so lightly, or that she hopes it's Issei himself who tells it to the other two girls who also want to help him. Issei smiled thinking that it could be one of those two reasons. But there was an important point that made him happy, and that was that Valery thought a lot about him and how he felt. He couldn't be happier about that, and without knowing it, a strange feeling began to be born. I see. In that case, Kuroka, do you want to know what I said to Valery and how she helped me cheer up and overcome my trauma? Trauma? Asked Kuroka confused by what Issei said. I'll explain it to you. Issei took a deep breath and mentally prepared himself for what he was going to say. The reason for all this originates a few months ago. Before I became a demon. I see. So that's the current situation. Tiamat was in another room along with Valery and Ophis, who told her about the current situation they are in and about Issei's situation. So those from the Alliance used it? Tiamat asked with a frown. I wouldn't know how to explain it. I just think that it was some kind of internal problem between Issei and his friends, who did not value him as they should. Valery sighed and leaned back in his chair. Even if they didn't use Issei because of her power, the damage they did to him for not understanding her feelings was almost irreparable. How serious was it? Too much? Valery answered Tiamat's question. Issei looked like a broken and empty shell, trying to act like his previous self, but his depression was too much. Valery sighed. He didn't sleep well, he rarely stayed up late, he ate little or nothing, he even suffered horrible nightmares from his past traumas, mistakes and fears. What do you mean by that? Asked Tiamat raising an eyebrow. If you want to know, you should ask Issei and let him decide if he will tell you. Valery put on a stern expression. Tiamat, Issei is still in the stage of recovering from what those who used to be his friends did to him. Of the So don't approach him for any reason you may have, as you will only remind him of what others did to him and he may become depressed again. I understand. Tiamat closed her eyes with her eyebrows furrowed and sighs. In any case, what can we do to help him regain his old trust? The solution is to gain their friendship and trust," said Valery, crossing his arms and legs. What Issei wants more than anything apart from becoming strong is that he wants someone to love and for that someone to love him. Valery, for a strange reason, felt a discomfort in his being when mentioning that, almost as if he was afraid that Issei would love another girl. "I understand, then." Tiamat crosses her arms and legs. "I will cooperate in this to cure Issei and for him to also regain his confidence and love." Tiamat sounded a little determined. Valery smiled when she saw that she managed to convince Tiamat to cooperate and not take out Issei's discomfort without realizing it. Although she felt a tightness in her heart when she thought of Issei with another girl other than her. It must be a bit of stress. Yes, that's it. And well, that's all I experienced. Issei had finished telling Kuroka the same story that he told Valery days ago. But this time, Issei wasn't as depressed as he was on that occasion when talking about it. Kuroka, for the part of him hearing Issei's story before he became a demon and everything he had to go through, couldn't stop his eyes from becoming watery. And out of instinct, he hugged Issei tightly, trying to hide the sobbing from him. "I'm really sorry, Issei Naya. You do not need to apologize. You had nothing to do with that." Issei stroked Kuroka's head, trying to comfort her. "No. I'm sorry for forcing you to remember and talk about something horrible that you wanted to forget." Kuroka sounded sincere in her words. Which caught Issei off guard. He knew that Kuroka was always playful and sensual and that he likes to bother others, but this time he is showing a side that I never expected to see in her. "It's okay, Kuroka, it doesn't matter," Issei said, caressing Kuroka's head more delicately. Unlike the previous times, now she doesn't affect me as much as before. So, come on, don't act like that and show me your sweet sincere smile. Kuroka, upon hearing what Issei said, raised her face to look at him intently and gave him the best beautiful smile of hers. Smile that was neither sensual nor mocking, but a beautiful sincere smile. Issei blushed when he saw Kuroka's smile. If before he thought she was beautiful because of her appearance, that smile she gave him surpassed all that. He couldn't even avoid thinking that he has a goddess in front of him. Issei, after almost a minute, would control his blush and caress Kuroka's head again, this time touching her Nico ears. Which made Kuroka purr like a cat and hug Issei a little tighter, who couldn't help but remember the few times she did that with Kaneko. "And answering your previous question about whether what the girls did to me was serious or if I hate them for what they did to me, this is my answer." Kuroka stared at Issei, waiting for his response and. No, I don't think what they did to me was on purpose and I don't hate them for what they did. It's a little understandable. That answer definitely made Kuroka surprised. There was always a question that had been gnawing at me for a while, but I could never find an answer to it until now. "And what is that question and its answer, Naya?" Kuroka asked, tilting her head. "That question that I always asked myself for a while was, are Riaz and the other girls really in love with me?" Kuroka was a little surprised by the question that Issei always asked himself. However, no matter how hard he tried back then, he couldn't find the answer to that question. "I even told myself it was stupid, there was no way they would see me that way. But the answer was always in front of my eyes and I never saw it until now. And it would be, yeah. They were in love with me." Issei sounded a little happy when he said that, but the pain of what happened that night was still present and instead of causing him regret, it only caused him disappointment. "And the question if I hate them for what they did to me, is this. No. I don't hate them, I'm just disappointed." Kuroka was a little confused at what Issei said. But this continued. "Even when I finally got that answer, more questions arose in my head. But it wasn't difficult to guess them." Issei looked at the ceiling with a sad and understanding expression. Still, it was pretty obvious that I was partly to blame for my relationship with them not moving forward because I never realized their feelings. But it's also their fault for leaving me wondering and blaming me for something I didn't know. And all that was because, even with so much time living with them, Rainer was always tormenting me internally and indirectly. Issei was no longer afraid to mention or remember that name. "I always considered myself less than others, it seemed ridiculous that girls as beautiful as them loved a nobody like me who couldn't give them anything." Issei then got the image of Riaz in his mind and he continued talking. To Buck, he said. "Riaz, I only saw her as my master and my superior. Even though he loved her, he thought she didn't feel the same way. I always believed that all those forms of affection that she only showed me were her way of showing how grateful she was to me for saving her from her arranged engagement. She even gave me her first kiss that I should give to who would be her loyal partner. But I can see that she already found it." Issei put his hand to his lips and remembered the day she saved Riaz from her engagement. "Still, she never told me. Maybe she expected me to reciprocate. Well, who knows. Issei shrugged, dismissing it so that the image of Akeno would later come to her mind. Something tells me that Akeno-san must also feel the same way Rias does about me. Although I didn't realize that either. I only saw Akeno-san as a great senpai who liked to annoy others with her jokes, especially me, who was the most perverted of all. But if my intuition doesn't fail me, she must have become interested in me after I helped her accept her inheritance as a fallen angel and reconcile with her father. But like Rias, Akeno-san left me wondering. Issei later had the image of Asia come to mind. Although I saw Asia as a pretty, sweet, innocent and pure girl. I decided to treat her like a sister and that I would protect her since I thought that she could not love me in the same way as she loved her faith towards God. Although if I also put her in the realm that she also loved me, I was more unable to see that. I thought that if she tried to lay a finger on Asia, she might look bad on me and ruin our relationship. That's why I decided to treat her like a sister. But even if she really loves me, she also left me wondering. Then I passed the image of Kaneko through Issei's mind. In the case of Kaneko-chan, I always believed that someone like her couldn't be interested in someone like me because of my way of being, a hopeless pervert that she couldn't. I was hesitant to reprimand whenever I could. But, when I helped her accept her nature as a Nekomata, she became more affectionate and clingy to me that she would even sit on my lap. Maybe it was after that time that she started to be interested in me. But Kaneko-chan wasn't that honest, so she also left me in doubt. Afterwards, the image of she didn't even seem interested in me as a person or that she had feelings for me, she just wanted me for my power. But, Issei remembered what happened at the meeting to discuss the alliance between the three sides. When I asked Michael-san to allow her and Asia to pray even though they were demons, Zenobia some time later behaved differently with me, as if she was trying to get closer to me. So it must have been after that she became interested in me. But she also left me wondering. Finally, for a strange reason the image of Irina also came to her mind and it took Issei half a minute to think what she should say. With Irina, I doubted a little. Even if she loved me too, I think she wouldn't want to risk falling in the process if she approached me with those intentions. Irina always dreamed of being an angel, so she would be depressed if she became a fallen. Angels can't let themselves be carried away by their emotions, they can't love someone even if they want to. Issei felt a little bad when say that. Even so, I can't deny that it hurt me that she also blamed me because my relationship didn't move forward because of the rest. Issei said all that, without knowing it, a single tear fell from his eye and he barely wiped it. I'm sad and disappointed that they didn't think about how I felt, but I don't hate them. However, I think that the bond we once had could take a long time to repair. I see. And then do you plan to return to them? Asked Kuroko a little sad. Even if I wanted to, it's not that easy for now. We are all wanted. Although, if I'm honest, I don't regret having agreed to join you, Issei smiled as he said that and Kuroko looked at him in surprise. I know that by joining you, I could have lost many more friends in the alliance who did nothing to me. But by being with you all this time, I was able to get to know you better than before. Before I considered you bad people who only sought their own benefit, I even came to deeply hate Valery for threatening to kill my family. I even came to hate you, Kuroko, for having wanted to take Kaneko-chan by force and that you wanted her as a piece at your disposal. Kuroko lowered her head sadly upon hearing that. Deep down she regrets what happened that day. Even so, I was able to get to know all of you in a good way. They are not what I thought they were before, they are good people who even fight for innocent people behind the backs of the Alliance and Cow's Brigade, not to mention that they want their freedom. Issei unknowingly hugged Kuroko tighter and she was surprised. Valery for me was a rare case since he was only interested in fighting strong people. But I can see that she cares about others and she is willing to help whoever she is, even an idiot like me. About the others I am not entirely sure, but I know that they are certainly good people. Although. Issei happened to stare at Kuroko and she did the same. Tell me something, Kuroko, what really happened in your former master's house? What was the reason for killing him? Kuroko was surprised by Issei's question, but. She lowered her head sadly, just remembering those days was a little painful, although she knew how to hide it, although on this occasion, it seemed obvious how she felt and Issei noticed her expression. I understand. Issei caressed Kuroko's head again trying to comfort her. Whatever happened, it must have been very important. So I won't force you to tell me, it was rude of me to ask that if it brings back bad memories. It's not that, It doesn't matter. Issei said, interrupting Kuroko. Until you feel safe, you can tell me if you want. Also, if I had the courage to tell me my life and my problems, it was because you earned my trust. Kuroko was surprised by what Issei said and blushed slightly upon seeing the pretty smile he gave her. So if necessary, I will earn your trust. Issei after saying that let out a yawn and felt her tiredness coming to him. Well, I think I'll sleep. Tomorrow is a new day. So let's talk another time. After saying that, Issei finally fell asleep with a peaceful smile. Kuroka, seeing Issei sleeping like this and remembering the talk they had, felt her heart beating in a unique way that she had never felt. Kuroka then reached her hand to the night lamp near the bed and turned it off, and then she lay on top of Issei and felt that her heart was beating a little harder than before and the blush on her face intensified a little. It's warm. After saying that, Kuroka finally fell asleep with a calm smile on his face and a single tear fell from his eye. All this while the image of a beautiful woman with white hair came to his mind carrying a baby with white hair and next to her was a young Kuroka. Mother. Very well, I think it's time. Valery said that she was sitting cross-legged in front of Issei, while Ophis and the others looked a little away at what was going to happen next. A couple of days have passed since that night where Issei had her talk with Kuroka and that was the same day where Tiamat joined the group. Everyone was in the training room watching expectantly as both celestial dragons tried to get rid of the curse on their sacred gears and transcend to a new level. Are you ready, Issei? Valery put her hands on the ground in the center of both of them while she looked at the brunette. I'm ready. Issei nodded determinedly and a boosted gear materialized on his left arm. The young man brought his hands to where Valery's were and they both held each other's hands, an act that made them blush slightly. Lafay pouted when she saw those two holding hands like that, they looked like lovers. Even Kuroka didn't see that well, although she didn't understand why that was. Valery decided to put his thoughts aside and focused on what they should do. Okay. The other thing to do is let the curse activate and try to endure it until we can suppress it. We must convince our predecessors and activate the Juggernaut drive in a different way. In other words, we have to make both things one with our own power. Issei completed what Valery was going to say and she smiled at that and Issei returned the smile that was as certain. Good. Let's do it. Valery unfolded the wings of divine dividing from his back and they emanated a brilliant light. For the curse to activate and for everything to turn out well, we must think, remember and fill ourselves with hatred. Valery spoke seriously. We must remember what we hate the most and hate it more strongly so that the curse is activated to be able to eliminate it. I understand. Let's do it then. Issei accepted without hesitation as she closed her eyes and the boosted gear began to glow while emanating draconian energy. Valery did the same and the divine dividing glowed even brighter and began to emanate demonic energy. Issei and Valery, without knowing it, were in a somewhat dark space where they could make out that they were in a type of room. And behind both of them, there were the past Sekiruites and Hakuryukas behind each other respectively while a dark aura surrounded them. And instantly, the most horrible and bad memories of her came to both of their minds. Issei only remembered the only person he hated more than anything and that even if she is dead, he will always hate her. Rainer. The simple memory of everything she did made Issei feel something he only felt once with two other people, their faces even came to his mind, Diodora Astaroth and Shalba Beelzebub. What they did and caused. Issei felt the immense hatred and resentment of his predecessors in himself as the dark aura enveloped him. Valery for her part remembered those horrible days that she lived before being taken in by Azazel. The great hatred that she had been accumulating for years for a single person. Her father. Just remember how he mistreated her because she hated that she had been born a woman and more because she was born someone better than him. However, the person responsible for all that was someone else and she never would forget it. That person is her next target after her father. Her grandfather. Valery also felt the immense hatred and resentment of her predecessors on herself and the dark aura of her curse began to envelop her. I should have killed you. I should have been the one to end your miserable life for everything you did. Issei clenched his teeth and fists just remembering her. He wanted her to be right in front of him so to be able to kill her with his own hands, to show her what true fear and terror is. To make her feel what he felt. I swear that I will kill you. Damn. Kill. I will kill you. I will kill them both. What even she suffered, they will pay. Valery clenched his fists and teeth with only remember her father and grandfather. She wanted to have them right in front of her so she could kill them with her own hands and make them suffer for the same thing she suffered. She wanted them to even beg. Juggernaut drive. Juggernaut drive. The past Sekiruites and Hakuryuka said that as the black aura on both youths became denser. This is. Kuroka sweated coldly as he saw how Issei and Valery were frowning with their eyes closed and how an invisible dark aura enveloped them both. They need help. Ophis said that even without changing her expression, but she walked up to Issei and Valery and put her hands between theirs. Get over it. I know you can do it. Don't let hate consume you. Back to the dark world. Issei and Valery continued to let their hatred consume them and their dark auras increased. But before it got older. Do not let hatred consume you. That voice. They both heard it and knew it. Ophis. Valery, don't let your past govern who you are. You are better than that. Come on friend, don't sink into the darkness. You promised to be strong in your own way and improve yourself. Do you plan to end up like this? Valery recognized those two voices. Arthur and Bhikkhu. Issei Naya, I know that what you experienced frustrates you a lot. But you can't let that woman rule who you are. Do not succumb to hatred, Issei. All drag wielders had a difficult life, but that doesn't mean you have to go through the same. Issei-sama, I promise you that you will never be alone. I wouldn't even know what to do if I went through something similar to what you, but please. You be my beautiful light and I will also be there for you always. Issei recognized those three voices. Kuroka, Tiamat and Lefei. That is why. Do not let frustration dominate you and transcend to overcome yourself and your past. Everyone spoke at the same time, demonstrating great support for both. Issei and Valery, upon hearing their friend's words, couldn't help but smile in gratitude and a couple of lonely tears came out. They would both stare at each other and each hold the other's hand. His grip began to emanate two colored lights. One red and one white. No, these were crimson and silver. I see. It's just as we said. Both are strange, but unique at the same time. Both young people saw how two orbs of white light appeared in the place next to them. Giving way to the appearance of two people, a white-haired man and a black-haired woman. Hello, Valery, and hi to Issei. Lux. Helena. Said Valery, surprised to see them here. They are. We are the strongest ancient carriers of the divine dividing that existed in their times. Helena answered Issei's question, who was surprised. Hi to Issei. Lux caught the attention of the brunette who stopped by to see him. I must say that I have seen everything you have been through since you gained the power of the dividing gear and I have been amazed by what you have done and faced. But how? Is it that the one who was with you was only an extension of my original self? I, who am the real one, am still in the divine dividing. Lux answered the doubt that Issei had. Because they both connected to each other for this great feat, the two inner worlds of both sacred gears are connected and that makes things easier. What do you mean by that? Issei asked with doubt. That we are going to help them overcome this and that they both ascend to a unique level. Said Helena with a smile. It is clear that both still have doubts, fears and hatred, but they have learned to overcome them with the support of the people around them. Worthy of admiration. Therefore, we are going to use our having ability to suppress what is in both sacred gears. But. Are you sure? I mean, I'm the Sekiryuite. I don't think. Have trust in them, partner. That familiar voice resonated in the place. Dreg? Issei asked with surprise. It's Valery's time. Time to overcome supremacy. Albion. And I see. Said Valery, understanding everything. Hi to Issei, you are interesting. Said Lux, giving Issei a smile. I can understand why two of the strongest Sekiryuites in history disappeared while laughing. If it's you, the one who has the enthusiasm and the fun. And you, Valery, who carries trust and loyalty. Helena followed what Lux was saying. Without a doubt, both of them can remove the curse and then, they might be able to change the heavenly dragons. No, more like, you two may be able to lead the two heavenly dragons to a new possibility. That's why. Lux raised his hand high just like Helena. They must ascend to a new level. Issei, Haidu and Valery Lucifer, you must become the new dragons who will bring justice and illusion. Helena said the last thing Lux should say. The white flash that came from the hands of the two former Hakuryuku wielders covered the entire place. This light removed the black aura around them from Issei and Valery, and the power of hatred of the past Sekiryuites and Hakuryukus was reduced by half and disappeared. The Sekiryuite uses domination so that everyone is destroyed and sinks into crimson purgatory. The Sekiryuite is the king of domination. It isn't true. Issei spoke firmly to his predecessors. I'm not going to become the king of domination. No. You're the king of domination. The Juggernaut drive is the royal path that has been planted in this sacred gear. No. Issei shook his head. If I am to be a king or similar, then I will become someone who represents justice with true crimson red light. Justice? Crimson light. Those words caught the attention of a predecessor who was interested in that. The Hakuryuku uses supremacy so that everyone can see the white paradise. The Hakuryuku is the king of supremacy. Paradise. Supremacy. Valery responded with mockery and grace to his predecessors. I don't need that. I am a demon, my place is in the underworld to bring the law to the darkness and illuminate those who have fallen into disgrace with the illusions of silver white. Illusion? Silver? Those words caught the attention of a former Hakuryuku wielder. It's working. Said Helena with a smile, seeing that they are bringing all the former bearers of both celestial dragons out of hatred. We won't allow them hatred, the sadness that represents the Sekiryuite, the supremacy, the white paradise that represents Hakuryuku. Some former carriers were in denial about the event that was going to happen. It's up to both of you. Say, the new songs. Lux gave a confident smile to both young people. Issei and Valery stared at each other and smiled as they held hands. And the crimson and silver glow appeared on both. Me, the one who woke up. I am the celestial dragon who steals the principles of God's domination. I am the celestial dragon who steals the principles of God's supremacy. The ancient Sekiryuites and Hakuryukus began the chant of the Juggernaut drive. Issei and Valery opened their eyes within seconds and there was great determination in them. It was time. Me, who is about to wake up. I am the Sekiryuite who has discarded the principles of God domination. I, who is about to awaken. I am the Hacker Yuiku who has discarded the principles of God supremacy. Issei and Valery began to do a different chant respectively. I laugh at the infinite and despise the dream. I envy the infinite and pursue the dream. Holding infinite hopes and unbreakable dreams and walking the path of justice. Traveling the path of domination with infinite destruction and piercing the imaginary dream. I will become the red dragon of domination. I will become the white dragon of supremacy. I will be the emperor of the crimson dragon. I will be the empress of the silver dragon. And I will sink you into the depths of crimson purgatory and I will take you to the furthest limits of innocence. And I promise all of you I will show you the future that shines in the true crimson light. And I will take you out of your illusions with the silver white color on the perfect evil paths. At those words from Issei and Valery, the place returned to its original color and the dark aura disappeared from all the past Sekiryutes and Hacker Yukas. Lux and Helena saw both young men with a feeling of pride. They had achieved it. The past Sekiryutes and Hacker Yukas had surprised expressions. Future? Will you show us the future? Illusions? Will you take us out of our illusions? Yeah, we all here wish to see the future and get rid of those illusions. Helena responded energetically to the doubt of her male predecessors. Future? We are going to create the future and not destroy it. Illusion? On perfect bad roads. You have to follow that. We all have the opportunity to see it and get rid of bad illusions. We also have the opportunity and the right to be happy, we just have to look for it. Lux noticed that all the predecessors of both celestial dragons respectively were excited. Hi do Issei, let's see the future that we will create with our own hands. Valery Lucifer, show us the perfect path of silver white. Issei and Valery saw their predecessors giving them grateful smiles. They were grateful to both young people who brought them out of their hatred and resentment. And those smiles indicated that they would accompany them to the end. It's ready, Issei. You did well, Valery. Drake and Albion appeared on the scene in their dragon forms and looked at their two best wielders with looks of pride. Altogether, we are the current Sekiryute. The one who brings justice with the true crimson light. Issei said to his predecessors and Drake who nodded to what he said. Altogether, we are the current Hacker Yuiku. The one who brings the illusion with the color silvery white. Valery said to her predecessors and Albion who nodded to what she said. Altogether, we are the Sekiryute and the Hacker Yuiku. Issei and Valery joined their hands, as if creating a circle of trust, to which Lux and Helena and two bearers of the Sekiryute joined their hands in the center of that circle. With that, the entire place began to glow in an intense crimson-silver flash. In the real world. This is. Arthur covered his face because both Issei and Valery were enveloped by a blinding crimson-silver flash. See, could it be? Yeah. They have achieved it. Ophis responded with a half-smile till a phased out. The crimson-silver flash that surrounded Issei and Valery released a wave of energy that sent everyone near them flying, except Ophis who did not flinch before said wave, and Fenrir was forced to use his strength to not be ejected. By the power emanated. The others fell to the ground and rolled several times on it due to the force of impact on the ground. After they finally felt the energy calm down and the flash disappeared, everyone looked up to see each other with great surprise. Issei was standing with his Sekiryute armor on. But the most detailed thing was that this one was crimson in color. The gems were jade green, its helmet had golden spikes, its wings were similar to those of the divine dividing, only they were reddish crimson. His feet and hands were claws. But Valery, she was the same as Issei. Only her armor was silver with very dense turquoise blue gems. And the spikes on both her helmet and parts of her armor were a very dense silver color. Her wings were the same, only they were whitish silver. Incredible. Tiamat did not help but show her amazement. The power of both was incredible. Issei, Valery. How do you feel? Asked Ophis, both young men approaching who saw the change in them. Better than I could ever think. Valery let out a sigh and felt at peace. With this. I will finally be able to go beyond what I could once imagine. Valery then stopped by to see Issei and her armor and compared them. Even here we show that we are opposite and similar at the same time. I know. Issei looked at his hands and took a deep breath. This feeling of power in my body is incredible. I've never felt like this before, not even with the Juggernaut drive. I say the same. Said Valery with a smile. Wow. Issei, Valery, my congratulations friends. Bhikkhu came a little closer and turned his staff. With this, I think they are at a unique level. I don't think that's the case, Bhikkhu. Arthur also congratulated both young men and then returned to what he said. Well, the power output they both demonstrated was unique, there are certain differences. In short, both have great power to be on par with beings who are close to the god level. And when they use all that, they are at the level of the gods themselves. Le Fay continued with what her brother said. They are strong, but that power is still imperfect. Kuroka continued with the explanation. Those forms are stronger than the Juggernaut drive in theory, but for now they are imperfect. That means they can become stronger. That's right guys. Even I know that I still have a long way to go to achieve my real potential, but this is a big step. I'm not complaining, what I achieved is enough for me, and I plan to be even stronger. Issei said, shrugging his shoulders. Also, the power and other things in the armor still need to be stabilized. This is basically a crab that has just shed its shell. Drake gave his opinion on the properties of the armor. But it's just like Kuroka said. Both forms can become stronger. Someday, they will have their full power. I second Albion to what Drake said and supporting Kuroka's assumption. With that, Issei and Valery sighed deeply and extinguished their auras as their armor disappeared. Valery staggered a little, but Issei helped her stay on her feet. Thank you Issei. Valery thanked with a smile. There's no point. Issei returned the same smile and Valery blushed because of that. We better rest, even if we have the rest of the day. I'm tired like hell. Me too. I wish to sleep a little. Valery compassed herself and she was already able to stand on her own. Come on Issei Naya, I will give you a senjutsu treatment to relieve your stress. Kuroka, as if nothing had happened, appeared next to Issei and grabbed her arm to take it away from the place, before the jealous look of Valery, Lucifer, and Tiamat. Hey, come back here, thief cat. That's not fair, Kuroka-san. Both Lucifer and Tiamat jazzed after the Nekomata who was carrying the Sekirute away with a triumphant smile. Valery frowned upon seeing that, and her eyebrow trembled as she tried to contain her apparent anger. Ooh, is the strongest Hakuryuku jealous? Biku made fun of Valery who blushed with embarrassment and left the place with an indifferent face. Within seconds, everyone left the place to go rest or continue with their activities respectively. But what no one knew was that something would soon happen that would affect everyone, in one way or another. Because no one would ever expect what would come out as a result of what is about to happen. And what would come after it. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.